Hello, everybody. I'm Russell B. Hill. I'm your host of another wonderful episode. You'll find out in just a minute of WTF, and that is What the Fixed Ops to You. I'm also joined by today.
I'm Charity Dunning. I'm the co-host here of What the Fixed Ops. Now, I want to introduce you to our guest today. His name is Larry Feldman. He is the president of Career Changers USA. Larry, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm a former salesperson and then car dealer. When we sold our store, I got helped somebody with recruiting and training, and thought, this is fun. I think I can do this. And I find salespeople, I find techs, any position you can imagine, and I believe I have the craziest and most effective sales training program because I hate to be bored, so I don't bore anybody. During the pandemic, I wrote a book called Inner Moron Demons, How to Avoid Them and How to Live Your Best Life. And I'm the lead singer and writer and guitar player for the Real Fugitives band. Other than that, I haven't been busy.
So
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
And I have to admit, Larry, I did write down inner Mormon demons instead of inner moron. So I thought
Wait a minute. Charity, hold on. That would probably be the only group of people I haven't offended yet. So thank you for complimenting this.
So I got to tell you, I'm so excited to have you on here. And most of you, some of you are going to be introduced to him for the first time. I don't even know when I actually met Larry, but I got to tell you, I probably spend it would 2 or 3 hours a day with you in different rooms and stuff like that, whether it be Clubhouse or he also hosts, he and Peter Smith, Lethal Sales on Wednesday night, which we'll talk about too. But I mean, would that be safe that we spend that kind of time together and yet we've never met?
Yeah, well, we share similar enthusiasms for life and for connecting with people. We both like to laugh. We both like to learn. So it's a pretty natural meeting of the minds, or in my case, the partial minds.
So when we're talking Career Changers USA, and we're talking about what does that actually mean to people out there in the industry? Because do you hire and text? Do you hire salespeople? Do you tell us, dig in and tell how did this get started? Actually,
a friend asked me to help him with recruiting and training, and I really didn't like the methods. I didn't like the approach, but I've never been to a 20 group meeting where they didn't need people or training that was actually inspiring. So for 4 years, I sales trained and recruited. I had a ball, Russell. I made so many friends, made a lot of money, had a lot of fun. And a guy in Florida said to me, Larry, we've got 20 salespeople. You've hired and trained 15 of them, and our top 10 salespeople are all your guys. Can you find me service people? So, of course, I fibbed and said, sure, it's no problem. I had no idea. But good salespeople, like, we leap before we look. So I checked out local headhunters. I thought they wanted too much money because of the transient nature of our business. Put it at what I thought was a reasonable rate. And that was 7 years ago. And I'm now in 206 dealerships as we speak.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, Charity, I just tend to have a lot of fun. Russell and a lot of other people tell you they're not sure about my mental stability, but if they know if I show up, they're going to have fun. And if you can make people's perspectives wrapped around fun, they'll dig in a little bit with you because all of our attention spans have shortened because of the way we approach things. Think how upset people get if it takes 10 extra seconds for their computer to boot up. So I just try to approach it the way I did sales, and I hope everything else in my life. Do it like you're dying, because we are all dying every day. We just don't know when the final ending is going to be. And go into it with the proper perspective and have some fun. Because no matter who you are or what you are, bad as you think your day is, there's somebody having a worse day.
Well, Larry, I have to tell you, my other past life, I was in the front end of automotive, running stores, worked my way up just as you did. Didn't own a store like you, however, and met people that would have, come to town and, you pay them a fee and they do the interviews and and training and everything and whittle the good ones out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've seen many of those over the years and they are boring. They don't, no voice inflection, monotone. It's like, what is different about you compared to everybody else?
I have the worst case of AHAD, or however you pronounce it. I read every chance I get on any subject I can. And a lot of people think I'm funny, whether intentionally or non-intentionally. I love it when an owner or a GM comes into my class because they watch people be fixated for 3.5 hours and nobody looks at their iPhone. Guys don't even want to go to the bathroom. At the end of the day, I have to throw them out. I'll tell you what, Russell, can I give you a 10-second snippet so you'll
Come on,
see how
come on.
mentally unstable I really am? I beat people up for about 40 minutes. I don't care if it's vets that need to be recharged or rookies I'm trying to get hired. And after I beat them up for about 40 minutes, I said, all right, look, I beat you up enough. Who wants to be wealthy? Yeah, me. Yeah, make it. Okay, great. I'm going to show you the person that's going to teach you how to view your customers so you'll get wealthy. I don't show them Steve Jobs, who was fired from Apple and came back and invented the iPhone. I don't show them Richard Branson. I don't show them Warren Buffett. I show them Sly of Sly and the Family Stone. Now, if they're 20, I have to explain that this was Prince before Prince because the young guys never heard of him. I explained this guy was outselling Stevie Wonder in the 70s, early 70s, which he was. And he has a song that will show you how to view your customers so you get rich. And that song, of course, is Everybody is a Star. Because my belief is we kiss the wrong butts. We kiss our owner's butt and our manager's butt. They're not paying you. They're the middle guys handling the money. Your customer pays you.
Boom.
And if they got bad credit, treat them like superstars. All right, you all have that? Great. Now, who has a dog? Russ, by this time, they're afraid to raise their hand because they know I'm nuts. But 2 or 3 always do.
Okay. I got one. Dog. I got a dog.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was a little thrown there, Charity. You warned me about Russ, but it's okay. So I say, all right, when you rub your dog's belly, Mr. Hill, and their leg twitches, they can't help it. And they all say, yeah, laugh. I said, don't laugh. That's the same reaction you get out of a sales manager when you tell them you have a deal. Never go to the desk and say you don't have anything. Say, with your help, boss, I might have some. They'll jump out of their chair with their ego puffed up and go, let me show you how to close the deal. You'd tell them we're cars. Because on a busy Saturday, salesmen all over the planet are saying, yeah, he's just shopping. All right, buy him a soda, tell him to come back. I defy you to hear that from my other contemporaries, whether it's Grant Cardone or Joe Verdi. The other thing I do is I connect my class around the people that are in it. A lot of these people, it's by verbatim. They don't change anything. If I've got a firefighter in, if I've got a guy from another country, I bend that into the class because, it's Dale Carnegie 101. If I come up to you, Charity, and tell you all about me, you're signaling to Russell, get me out of here. But if I ask you to tell me about you, you'll talk for 3 days. So it's simple basics. You got to show you're interested in them to get them interested in you.
Talk about word tracks, how important they are or not, or should they be used or not used? What's your take on that?
I'm gonna quantify it. I believe that people that teach people word tracks are trying to turn them into robots. I teach people to think. Now, again, he's making me give my class away, Charity. He probably has an ulterior motive. I can see it now. Russell Hill replacing that fraud Larry Feldman. One of the questions that I love to ask all over the country, I actually got a big job on it because they brought me in front of all their managers. Nobody answered it, right? Is what do you say to the guy that you woke up to on a Saturday, beautiful day, and he says, don't even start your sales pitch. I have to watch my son or daughter play baseball or play whatever they're playing today. Excuse me. I'm so excited looking at Charity and Russell. I said it wrong. I only have 10 or 15 minutes. I got to go watch my son or daughter play. And of course, the answers I get are, well, I can do it in 10 minutes, come back. The answer is, what is your son playing? Baseball. Yeah. That's great. Man, they're about to give this Japanese guy Otani $500 million. Mike Trout's making $400 million. Football, you might have the next Tom Brady. Wait, she's a tennis player. Do you know how much Serena Williams is worth? It all comes down to making it personalized. Russell, you're not going to believe this, but you're smart enough to know the true stories are crazier than the made up stories.
Absolutely.
I did work at Michiana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and you fly into South Bend. So all you see is leprechauns and Notre Dame stuff. That's all you see. And I walked in, and all they had playing, most of these dealerships had TVs. They were all around the TV, ESPN. I swear to you, a guy came in with a Notre Dame hat. You're 20 minutes away from South Bend, and nobody was smart enough to say, "Hey, did you go to the school? Or you're just a fan of the Fighting Irish?" Because everything we talk about that isn't about money makes us money. The more human it is, the more fun it is.
I really do understand. All you got to do is get people talking about themselves and find a common interest, and they'll tell you everything that you need to hear.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great stuff. Charity, I know you have a question.
Sure. I'll throw out a question. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your book. You call it The Ultimate Guide to Making More Money, Having More Fun, and Living Your Best Life.
That's
and
correct.
I want to know, like, maybe the first couple steps that you suggest, or, I'm curious of what your thesis is.
First step is an attitude of gratitude. I tell a story in the book that is absolutely true. I'm because Russell and I are older than you. We like. I'm presuming that Russell still likes to do it. I love to read a newspaper. If you tell a 17-year-old to read a newspaper, it's like you have three heads. But it was the Philadelphia Bulletin, which is no longer a newspaper, sadly, and it said that a safe, an old building in Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is an old city, the heavy weight of the safe leaned into the wall, fell out and hit somebody in the head and killed him. And I told my father, and he said, it could be worse. I said, Dad, how could it be worse? Guy's dead. He said, we could have been walking under the safe. If you look at everything as how much worse it could be. I thought my father made it up, but it turned out to be an old Jewish proverb. I thought I was bad off with no shoes till I met a man with no feet. So if you look at this as I'm here, I'm breathing, maybe I'll turn it around. If it's a bad day, I'll make it a good day. If it's a good day, I'm going to enjoy it because nothing good or bad lasts forever. So when that's your attitude, your life's a little easier because a lot of people seem to be stuck in the complaint-a-thon. This is what's wrong and that's what's wrong. As I've aged, I've become a lot more conservative, but I will quote the Black Panther. Eldridge Cleaver said one thing of use to me, and that is, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If you want to come up to me, Charity, and say, Larry, something's wrong here, what can we do? I'll work all day with you to fix it. But I don't want to hear people bitch. It takes longer to complain about things than it does to fix them. So if you start out with a positive attitude and you understand that some people are going to be cranky and some situations are going to drive you berserk, but you're still breathing and you can still do so many things that are meaningful and enjoyable and profitable, I think that gives you a big jump on things. Then if you, I preach, don't lose your mind here, Russell. I preach schizophrenia. I think you should try to be the craziest person in every room and the smartest. Because if you're a little nuts, people will buy from you. Everybody has a clerk or someplace, guys, you like him because he's nuts. But if you screw up the order, they're never coming back. So I want people to be as personable as they can be, but also really look at things. Russell, I sold all those cars, a ton, over all my years in the business, never made a paperwork mistake. I'm not that smart, but I was scared to death that the S would look like a 5. So I always double checked everything. And Russell will tell you, Charity, I don't know if you ever worked at a car dealership. Nothing is more horrendous than having to bring a customer back because you screwed up the paperwork or the odometer. Do it right and do it right away. Act like everything's for your mother.
I wasn't like that for a long time. I mean, you know how I think about my past, but there was a time where, I was a taker, not a giver. And I was a complainer, and it just, I realized at some point in time that really didn't work out. I know you're that way because I see you in so many other verticals that's just you. You're always looking to find a solution, always looking to help somebody up. And I think that's ultimately the key to happiness is to serve and help other people overcome if you can. And if you can't, and they just want to stay in the pity pot, love them where they're at and move on down the road.
Yep. If you can't elevate somebody, walk away from them before they drag you down.
Yeah, because it's easier to drag you down. Oh, yeah, it's easier, particularly if you're not well versed on the attitude of gratitude. It's so important. That's so important. Thank you for sharing that.
Charity, you better ask me yes, no questions because I can't
No,
say hello in less than 18 minutes.
well, that's fine. I actually don't do yes and no questions because
No,
I
she
don't
doesn't.
want yes or no answers. But I was reading up a little bit about you, and you're a big history buff.
Oh,
And
Yes, I am.
I love asking history buffs, what can history teach us? And of course, the younger generations, maybe our future later leaders, that they may not know. So, what can history teach us?
Well, first of all, if you don't, those that ignore history are doomed to repeat it. When you forget about what has come before you and what were the positive and negative results of that, you fall right into it. As far as the youth, I'm going to sound like the grumpy old guy, get off my lawn, but they're more like lemmings leading themselves off the cliff. If this was 1801 and you didn't have access to a lot of things, I could, not stupid, I could understand and forgive ignorance. But to be ignorant now where there's so much access to information that can be disseminated and to have so many people not understand what's going on in their world scares me. I'm going to let me directly answer your question in an indirect way. When I had I used to have a radio show. Hard to believe because I'm a little shy. And my last guest was Ralph Nader. Charity, do you know who Ralph Nader is? And if you don't, it's okay.
I do know who
I
Ralph
bet she
Nader
does.
is.
Yeah,
She's smart.
she
Well,
is.
for anybody out there that doesn't know, Ralph Nader angered every conservative in the world when he came out with a book called Unsafe at Any Speed, because it was explaining the Corvair was a death machine, because if you had an accident, there was no seatbelts. It had like what looked like a spear coming out of the steering wheel. Back then, the expression was, as General Motor goes, so goes the country. So every conservative said, how dare you attack General Motors? Now you flash forward a couple decades, and he runs against George Bush and Al Gore, and a lot of liberals said, you siphoned off votes that definitely would have been to Gore. You lost us the election. So I thought anybody that liberals don't like and conservatives don't like must be good, because he's obviously trying to be a person of integrity. So he's on my show, and he said, Larry, you're pretty smart. I was very flattered by that because this guy's brilliant.
Yeah, he
He
is.
said, let me tell you what's wrong with our country. I thought, man, boy, do I want to hear this. He said, are you a sports fan? Now, this was prior to people being so self-aggrandizing and kneeling for our national anthem. Again, grumpy old guy coming out. I don't love sports the way I did. I still love to play them, but I don't get the same enjoyment in watching, right? 20 guys make 20 million a year complaining they're underpaid. But I used to love it. I said, yes, back then when I was a big sports fan, he said, okay, can you name your starting five on your basketball team or your infield? Sure. He says, most people can, but they don't know who their alderman is, their senator, their congressman, the person in charge of their school district. So the people that are actually making the rules by which they live by, to them, that's casual. If you complain to me about a political figure and I ask you why, and all you can come at me is platitudes, or usually the inverse proportion of what they really are, I'm not interested in what you have to say. Again, another very long answer, Charity. Hopefully, we can extend
A
this
lot
show
of
at about
people out
7
there
hours.
like that. Yeah, a lot of
Yep.
people out there like that, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of my favorite quotes is that history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. Do you believe that?
I think it's whoever said it's being semantical, because history definitely repeats it. I happen to be of the Jewish persuasion. And once again, we have the only country in the Middle East that's democratic, that allows all religions to be just a good country being assailed because they punched back at somebody that punched them. Um, we see the same financial things where people speculated they could buy on a margin, and that's what led to the depression. And now we have a lot of people that are telling you put all your money into cryptocurrency. If you want to speculate on a small amount, it's logical because you never know. But to put all your stuff in, we've seen, you had that guy that was like an influencer that killed himself, and a lot of people think it was because he had all his money in there, and when something dropped, he lost everything. So I don't know so much that it rhymes, but as far as repeating, what does the world revolve around? People trying to get money, trying to get power, being a little mentally unstable. So unfortunately, we tend to say it's, again, you're not only are you too young, me and Russell are too young, but World War I was the war that was going to end all wars because it was so disastrous in terms of population loss. World War II, that ain't better. And once again, you have people attacking themselves and each other all the time, and you kind of sit back and go, "What are you trying to accomplish?" So, if you read the book, you'll like the particular chapter where I tie in Paul McCartney, Tom Brady, and Abraham Lincoln, who all went through certain struggles. I know it sounds a little strange, but I'm a strange little guy. So
it's all your favorite people or all your favorite genres in one chapter. Sports, history.
Well, wait a minute. I didn't say my favorite. I respect Tom Brady, but I'm a Philadelphia. Okay. And we lost to him in a Super Bowl, and then we came back and whooped his butt. I would never go that far. I would lean more my favorite on one of my Sixers, or if it was not in my town, Walter Payton, Sandy Koufax, all those guys. And as far as Paul McCartney, the most brilliant musician you could ever conceive of when you consider the songs this guy's produced, how well he plays every instrument, how great his voice is. But I got to tell you, he's not as talented, but I like John Lennon better. Yeah. And as far as Lincoln, I'll give you that because to me, the three greatest presidents are George Washington, who started everything, Lincoln, who pulled us together and saved, and then still showed compassion, and Harry Truman, because he's the last honest president we'll ever have because he didn't want the job. Anybody that campaigns for that job has to be out of their mind because of the scrutiny and pressure.
Oh my God!
Do you agree, Russell?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Charity, we may have to cut this show short because I'm starting to make sense. That's
yeah. Any politician that willingly wants the job is you got to be suspicious of. We need people kicking and screaming up to the podium, right?
Well, it's Groucho Marx line. I would never be a part of any club that would have me as a member. Go ahead, Russell.
Yeah.
It's not like politicians make money hand over fist, but it's ironic that they, in a short period of time, they become multimillionaires. Serving. So here's, I think, let me get this right. 9 of the worst words in a sentence that you could hear is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Yeah, because Reagan, listen, whether you're Republican or Democrat, certain things make sense and certain things don't. And one of the things that always makes sense is smaller government. I'll debate 10 Democratic or liberal scholars and whoop their butt because there is never any more waste than what you have in government because it's not their money, it's our money.
That's right.
These guys wouldn't have these ridiculous studies and these stupid projects if it was their money. It's because it's our money.
Yep.
So the smaller of government, the less they get involved. Me and Russell could do a project for $4,000 to be brilliant. If we got the government involved, it'd be $57,000, and it would be a 3-year delay.
No, it longer than that. I mean, when you're paying $88,000 for a commode, something's wrong. I mean, something is really wrong in Denmark. My son asked me many, many years ago, and I've probably spoken on here before, just trying to keep it simple. And he said, "Dad, how do you know if you're a Republican or a Democrat?" And I said, "Well, it's really simple, Ryan." He said, well, tell me. I said, "Well, first of all, they're all crooked. Okay. They all have their own agenda, but Democrats essentially, just keeping it simple, want larger government and more taxes, and Republicans want less taxes and smaller government. Those are essentially the differences. And then we get into all of this stuff here, and it's like, okay, rarely can I actually talk to somebody and where they're listening to try to understand instead of can't wait to respond. And then I know I really can't have a conversation with, and I'm open. I understand a lot. I'm more in the middle. I can go left, right, stuff. But boy, I'll tell you what, the extremes are just, I don't understand. It seems like everybody's polarized more than any other time in history. And then I was talking to my dad, bless his heart, who passed away several months ago. We used to meet once a month for lunch, and over the last many years. And my brother and I, we would solve during lunch. We'd solve all the political and religious problems that plagued the world. I mean, we did. We were really good at that. And so we're sitting there talking one day, and my dad, my brother and I, we listen to each other, but we have differences in what we believe. My dad liked to remain kind of neutral, but he leaned more on with some of my thought processes and stuff. But he said, listen, my brother made some comment that the next 4 years, it's going to be the end of the world. My dad said, listen, I've seen so many times. It does appear there's more polarization than any other time that he remembers. But he said one president coming in is not going to destroy the world. And
Yeah.
keep it in perspective, because then you'll have a Republican, and then they go back and forth and cut, and all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that, and if I offend anybody, enjoy yourself being offended, because I could care less. we got in a guy who, it's one thing when they lie to us and then do something different, but we had two candidates, whether you like them or not, that did exactly what they said they would do. And in Biden's case, it was, I'm not going to deport anybody, and I'm going to shut off fossil fuels. How could anybody in their right mind vote for that? Because it's having our own energy, being energy independent, changed the dynamic in terms of the defense of our country and the economics of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you have a country without a border? I mean, Charity, would you like to have a house with no door on it? Somebody wanders in, just come in. Okay. So we've become so illogical in how we approach things. I was on a podcast recently, Russell, and I bit my tongue for 53 minutes and then went crazy on somebody. They kept talking about inclusion, and I said, listen,
Which one was it? No.
Yeah, let's go peek.
Absolutely. I'll tell you. What I said was, inclusion without merit is it's horrible. I said, would you like to be on a plane with somebody, and the only reason the pilot got the job is their sexual persuasion or their color? If they were incompetent, of course you would. This is the net effect of giving every kid a trophy, because you're teaching in baseball, you're teaching the great player why be great. You're not going to be recognized, and the mediocre player why practice, because no matter what it is, you get a trophy. So I think the current regime are out of their minds, and if I could be even so bolder, being a student of history, we wouldn't have the problem in Ukraine, and we wouldn't have the problem in Israel if the current guy wasn't in. Because the last guy, he might have said a lot of crazy things, but I didn't see any war activity. He took out Soleimani. I didn't see big riots the next day, because he made it clear you'll be punished. We've been hit nearly 80 times.
Yep. And
Lloyd Austin gets on TV, what a clown that guy is, and says, we're not going to stand for it. We are standing for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Other than that, I have no strong opinions.
So let me ask you along those lines, when you have the up and coming young people, men and women, that are in your class listening to you, that they were the ones that were handed these things, or they think they're entitled or they're owed something. Is that really true, or they're really not that way at all? They just want to know, they just want to be a part of what everybody else is. They want to know they count, they matter, they make a difference. Now they want flexible schedules and things of that nature. But what do you think about that? The new men and women coming into automotive?
I think it's perspective. I think most people today have a problem looking in the mirror. In the book, Charity, if you've read it, I say, don't lie to yourself, because there's no one there to correct you. And a lot of times, even good intentions go awry if there's no common sense. In 1968, it was a logical premise to protest the war in Vietnam if you were of draft age. Why? Because if you thought you had the chance to be maimed or to die for a cause you didn't believe in, I could see you saying, hey, I'm not defending my family. I just don't want to do it. I get it. And it was a logical protest. But the protest grew into such a ruckus and such a demonstration of unrestrained anger that people watched on TV and they said, you know what? The Democrats are too scary for me. Let me push Nixon into office. Again, so sometimes the right road to hell is paved with good intentions.
It is, absolutely.
If you came to me and said, Larry, I'm very disturbed with Israel's behavior, and you see it on TV every day, and I believe that what happened was justified, I'd say to you, can I ask you a question? Do you understand that in 2005, Israel gave up that area, gave it to them. We didn't. We've done everything we can to mollify and try to make peace. How can you possibly talk about people killing?
Well, I mean,
maiming,
come on,
beheading?
because it's on social media and TikTok. That's
Right.
why.
Yeah. Social media is like every other tool. It's great if you can use it in a proper fashion, as you guys and ladies are doing right now. And it can be a very scary tool in somebody else's hands. The fact that so many young people claim that they get their news from TikTok.
Okay, so that it
Oh.
goes right back to they're in your class and they're those kind of men and women. Are they are they teachable? I mean, are they going to be good for our industry? I mean, do they really want the same things we do, or are we listening to all the wrong crap? I mean,
I try to weed them out in the interview process. Try to get a sense and a feel for what they're trying to accomplish. Charity, if you've never been on my Lethal Sales podcast, if somebody described it to you, you'd think it was the worst show on earth, because I hate long pontifications, which you hear on most shows. So if you talk too long, I cut you off. I make fun of everybody on the show. And I think genuinely, Russell, I hope you'll agree, has a great time.
yeah, that's why I keep coming back, and it is
Right. So
tell everybody
the
what it
concept
too.
is to kind of see what their ultimate intention is. If I was really creepy and I really was just trying to hurt, but I'm just trying to provoke a reaction and then make it positive, so the people on the show go, this guy's crazy, but I like him. I know he's on my side. But if I see people that really, I'll give you a quick one. What if I don't sell any cars? I'm not hiring you. I'm not even bringing you into the class. I would rather have a guy that says, I'm going to be the best salesman in here. Perfect. So again, it's very, very simple. Russell said to me, would you like to be on my show? I love Russell. I can't think how two people could be closer that have never shaken hands.
Mm-hmm.
But if I said to him, absolutely, how much can you pay me? He'd say, let me get back to you. When is the day after never? So it's all your attitude and your approach. The interesting thing about the car business, Charity, is you don't need a college degree, and you can still make yourself $100,000. And everybody that's good gets a chance to advance because they'd rather you move everybody rather than just move, your own needle. Where else can you do that?
Yeah, without a college or sometimes even high school.
Right. So I'm just looking for people that want to have fun, that want to build something. And I think you can find that out pretty quickly. Now, they may not all work out. It's the real world. We're transitory as a planet these days. But it's like everything else. It's your approach and how do you do it and where do you do it? So I remain extremely optimistic, but it's getting a little bit harder to be as purely positive as I've always been, because the things around me disturb me so much because there's no logic behind it. There's no, well, how did you come up with that? They just dumped all these guys out of the armed forces, and now they want them to come back. The statistics showed that the younger you are, the less you had to fear from COVID. They got rid of nurses. They did things that made no damn sense. And those things are like a wave that just sends ripples all over the place. But again, look who's leading us. Again, I've already got myself in trouble also, so I keep rolling. Somebody asked me, do I really think Kamala Harris is that bad? I said, she makes Sarah Palin look like Eleanor Roosevelt. She's the border czar. She's never been to the border. It's nuts.
I know it is, and it is polarizing. I have obviously, and I don't mind sharing them with people, regardless, as long as they're open. But I don't really post a lot of stuff on social media and stuff like that, because I mean, I don't know what other people are thinking, but I know the people I associate with on a daily basis, and they're so. So I'm going to go back to Lethal Sales. That is what I thought. Yeah, I'm gonna show up, see what it's all about. I got hooked in the first 15 minutes, and the reason I got hooked is because of what Larry just said. For all you out there listening to this, I'm sure you'll say something at the end, but you need to show up. Okay, it's thought provoking, it's funny, it's entertaining, and you got people that really want to make a difference in this industry, and they want to share their insights and And I mean, it's not on sales. It is on life. Every aspect of life. And I haven't been able to put it down. I got to show up every Wednesday night. I just do. And all of you out there listening, you think I'm just trying, I don't get a dime from it. You want to find out, show up. Okay. It can't tell you about it like what I just tried to do. The only way you can really know is to experience it.
Hey, Russell, this is a much safer addiction than some others you've pursued in your life earlier.
Yeah, a lot of people know about that. And as a matter of fact, Larry and I, he shared his birthday and I shared my birthday on December 1st. My birthday was a little different than his. I'm only 29 and I'm not going to say your age, but actually we're the same age. Well, given 6 months.
Charity, he's got scars on his leg that are older than 29. Don't listen to him.
No.
I know quite a bit about Russell's
Yeah,
history.
she does. So I'm going to say this, okay, because I really believe this. So when I say that, and people know that there's a book coming at some point in time in the near future, I am, you talk about you being ADHD, I'm ADHD on steroids, okay? It's hard unless people keep me in line, which Charity and Patrick do keep me in line. I mean, we wouldn't be here without it, but she's the one writing my story because I couldn't write it to where, I mean, it might capture somebody's attention, but and then I thought, do I want this to be a number one? No, I just want to make an impact and let people know, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. And it's okay to be vulnerable and to love and to help people and to keep getting up and trying over and over and over again because too many people think that they're unique and they're not. I think too many people suffer from terminal uniqueness.
Yep. Yep. But the beautiful thing about your story, Russell, is you had some problems in your past. You beat every one of them back. But I got to tell you, the thing that impresses me the most about you isn't that you've built 3 successful companies. It's that how positive you are. I really don't have time anymore for negative people. I really don't. It's not that I'm less patient. It's that I really have so many things that I'm doing all the time. I don't want to hear people tell me I can't. I love to ask people in my class, what do you think penicillin was derived from? It's moldy bread. The Beatles were so unlikely to get signed that they made a deal with George Martin, who was known for producing comedy records. They told Elvis Presley to go back to driving a truck, and Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team. Michael Jordan. There's so many things in front of us where people are going to say, no, you have to have a chip in your brain that's like, hey, my father said it beautifully. God bless those that wish me well and all the rest can go to hell. If you don't think I can do it, just get the hell out of my way and watch me. And you've done that. But like I said, I know a lot of guys that have built successful businesses, but I've never seen you anything less than positive, pleasant, upbeat. I honestly think, Charity, that's why him and I get along. Both ADHD, whatever, but we're both guys that really want to make things better, smile. And Russell's one of the most open people to jump in and help somebody. It's really a beautiful thing to watch.
Thank you very much. And that's why we probably connect the way we do, because you are exactly that same way. I mean, and I've learned this over the last year and a half or however long that, I mean, I spend hours every morning starting early, and I go from one room to another room. And then there's this guy, Larry Feldman, who keeps following me around and he keeps making these off the wall comments and snide remarks and stuff like that. But everybody laughs and jokes and then they lift you up, like I remember what was it? I don't know if it was the Monday FixedOPS or if it was the used car, all things used cars. But, David Long just lifted you up and promoted you, about, people that, I mean, I guess you're training people and stuff for him or
Recruiting techs and advisors and salespeople and everything you can imagine. And he appreciates the fact that, like I try to do, you probably did the same thing, Russ. I try to make everybody feel like they're my only customer. I'm there. They reach me. And again, virtue has to be its own reward because they've stopped giving out trophies. You got to be a good person because you're driven to be a good person, not because there's an ulterior motive.
It's really amazing. And I know it's biblical too. It's better to give than to receive. It's so cliche, but which is why it's cliche, because it's true. So I picture this snow-capped mountain starting to melt and the cascading pristine crystal clear stream running down the mountain, right? And when it finally gets to the bottom, it takes a few little turns, et cetera, et cetera. And here's the way I view my life. It takes one turn and it ends up getting backed up, and then it becomes, dammed up by beavers, and then moss sets in, and it becomes dark, and et cetera. So until you bust that dam and let it go, and that's how I kind of look at my life. If you don't share it and give it away, that's the crap you keep, is the cesspool. I mean, it's just horrible.
I love it. And I'll stay in the woods for an analogy. I like Robert Frost's concept of, I came to two paths in the woods and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference.
Yep. Man, that's true. Yeah, you see what 95% of it's beyond 95% of the population gets their information from the same 95% of the population that has what they have or less than what they have, and they wonder why they don't have anymore.
Yep. Yeah, and I always question things. Even if I love somebody or something, I can still look at it objectively and say, well, wait a minute, what's happening here? I can see, I can separate the flaws in a person, I hope, from their good qualities, because I never met a perfect person.
I think you just pointed out the one thing about you that's universal with everybody that interacts with you, is that you always find something to talk about, something that makes a difference to somebody and invokes them. You're always invoking people to comment, whether it's what you want to hear or not what you want to hear. Do I got that right?
Yes, so yeah, I like to engage people. I think the show, one of the reasons the show works is I get everybody involved. Hey, what do you have to say on this, or where do you go? And it's fun for me, and I know it's fun for them, because we all want to feel like we're a part of something. We don't want to feel like our opinion doesn't matter. And I'm not one for like chit chat. All right, well, let me just give meaningless platitudes. When you push people a little and make them smile, and maybe even, hey, you got to break the muscles down to build them up. It really becomes it just gets a lot tighter. It's just a lot more fun. And again, I'm not preaching to anybody else what they need to do, but I never believed in giving a second class effort. I like to play as hard as I can, think as hard as I can, teach as hard as I can, because it's more fun. I think the people that don't understand this are missing out on the whole world. Yeah, I know this isn't going to work. I probably can't do it. You've already defeated yourself. How much more fun is it to say, let's go. I'm going to give it the best I have. Don't work, I'll come back and we'll try something else.
It's amazing how much that we lie to ourselves. I thought that session this morning with all things FixedOPS, or all things new used cars, was great. Charity, I was looking at one of your questions. Have you seen any cycles repeat in all the years in automotive? Yes,
Talking to me?
Yeah, in all your years of automotive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In 73, you had problems with the oil embargo, and you had to wait in line at the gas station depending on the last number on your license plate. And all of a sudden, if you were selling trucks or big, you were done. I remember in 2008 when the housing market melted down. Then they started taking franchises away from people that were operating a great franchise. Again, it's history, just keep repeating itself over and over and over. We keep seeing it. We talked about some bad things. One of the most moronic things we're seeing is the way that they usually tamp down inflation is they tick up the interest rates, and you combine that with less government spending, and they keep ticking up the interest rates and they keep spending more money, and it just goes completely out of control in any direction you look at it. There has to be some logic. There has to be some people that actually know how to run a business, to run the biggest business in the world, which is the U.S. economy.
In the world, actually, absolutely. So I was sitting here, we were talking. I know it history. So I'm in a room in the morning. I'm not going to mention the room. Sometimes it gets a little like negative, okay, about woe is me and things are slow, and somebody always tends to pick it back up, etc. But some of the same things I hear about salespeople, about managers, whether it be on the fixed side or on the variable side. And I looked behind me to see if I had it. I have it somewhere, a manual. I believe it's from the 1950s that Ford produced on the road to the sale. And when I got in the business in 1985, I was talking about those things back then, the same things people are talking about today. And it's up here and here more than anything. It really is.
A guy said to me once, I told a joke, everybody laughed, and he said, "That's an old one." I said, "They're all old ones. They were telling these same jokes in ancient Greece, the mother-in-law thing." We again, we're humans.
Yeah.
We have the capacity for greatness, but we have the capacity for sub-mediocrity because we waste so much of our time. You know, the great thing about being human is we're going to die. Because if you're smart, it puts some urgency on this. Let me get this done. If we lived forever, nothing would get done. Your wife would say to you, "Can you take the trash out?" "Yeah, I'll do it in about 200 years. What's the difference? We're not going anywhere." But the idea that there's a cap on this pushes us to do more, to think more. Now, not everybody.
No.
A lot of people get crushed by the weight of their own lack of expectations. But again, it's how you look at it. What is your perspective? Every birthday I have, they say, "You feel old?" I said, "Nope, I feel a lot better than the guy a year younger than me that died." As long as we have the opportunity, there are so many good things that we can do and so many ways we can make the world better, make ourselves better. So many things to read and listen to.
Did you always have that perspective?
Yeah, I was like the rabbi when I was like a little kid, because I just always, I'm nuts, but I always had a logical perspective on things. I always tried to pull back and look. I got in trouble once. My father owned bars. They called them tap rooms, and he knew every cop in the city. I did something goofy, and the cops came to the house. "Hey, Al, how you doing? Your crazy son. So I'll take care of him." And he said to me, "What happened?" And I started to lie to him and say, "It was all these guys." He says, "Were you there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I know you were the boss." I was already busted. But yeah, but I mean, listen, why would you have any other perspective? We're not.
Well, I mean, but so many don't. I didn't for the longest. I blamed everybody for everything. I think that's the biggest thing, accepting responsibility.
Yep.
And well, if nobody else is not going to do it, then it's not going to get done. It all starts with me. Somehow or another, it starts with me every day.
Yep. Well, look but forget about where you were. You said the Bible, you're the prodigal son. You came back to understanding and appreciating life and pulled yourself out all the way. I think that's beyond admirable, because anybody can rock and roll when everything's good. It's when adversity gets thrown into the mix that you're truly tested.
Absolutely. Charity, do you have a question?
I have one. It'll switch us a little bit off the topic we're on right now.
We'll go flow.
Have you thought about automotive as an industry, or even different dealerships being a lot like sports teams, in that they have to work together and represent their brand and win a battle? Do you think there's some sort of metaphor to be had there?
Yes, and unfortunately, it's a very negative metaphor, because there's tremendous disconnection and hostility in most dealerships between, variable ops and fixed operations. I just don't think there's tons of dealers out there having sales service meetings where the input's positive rather than confrontational. All the old things. It should be mandatory that when you're showing somebody around the dealership and trying to sell them a vehicle, that you walk them through service. These are the people, because we lose that business through service, which the business desperately needs. We lose the chance to get them as a repeat referral customer. And it just gets really, really interesting. You would think that people would do, but listen, again, my brain and Russell's are connected, so I'm jumping off topic, but I promise it'll answer the question. If you're in a state that allows a referral fee or a bird dog, you can't do it in Ohio, you can't do it in Virginia, but any other state, why wouldn't you spend at least a half an hour a day prospecting, texting people? Call me, I might have 100 for you, emailing them, because you can get a 75, 80% close on people that were referred in or previous customers, where the closing ratio on a stranger is 20, 25% if you're lucky.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and all over the country, people are like, "Nah, I don't want to miss it up." Forget about missing it up. If you do it right, they walk by all the other guys smoking a cigarette on the lot and say, "No, I'm here to see Larry."
And you probably bring that kind of stuff up in your training classes too, don't
Right.
you?
I mentioned it. Russell heard me mention it. I said years before anybody else thought it, that we'll see how good of a coach, okay, the guy in New England is once Brady's not there. Because to me, the greatest coach is Vince Lombardi. He ran his team to death. They wanted to shoot him, but he said fatigue makes cowards of us all, and he wanted them to be in better shape with the other teams. He went to 6 championship games in his brief tenure in Green Bay, lost to my Eagles, won the other 5, including the first 2 Super Bowls. Everybody blocked and tackled. Now, that doesn't sound sexy.
No.
But it's the basic things that roll. Everybody that meets me says, I can tell you sell a lot of cars. You're crazy. You're funny. Yeah, but I would have never done it if I wasn't meticulous, if I didn't answer the phone right away, if I didn't write things down, if it wasn't important to me, and if my people weren't important to me.
That's right.
So should they work like a great sports team? Absolutely. That's why they look for coaches, and they pay them so much money if they can pull a team together, make everybody feel like, push them, motivate them, not demean them, but demand what they expect of you. I told a manager once, I said, listen, I want you to tell these guys like I tell you. I love you. But why are you always hollering at me? Because I love it. I love it. Because I expect more of you. You want to be nice to people until you fire them. You want to keep everybody pumped up, because everybody's mind can wander to the negative side if you're not careful, you know?
Yeah,
Did that answer that, Charity? I even forgot what the damn question was. That's what happened.
Yeah, you did. You did.
That was a good one. Now, she had one on here that I found kind of interesting that I want to ask you about.
Sure.
And that is, are you a cat person or dog person? And what separates the 2 personality types? That was a really good one, Jerry.
In the book, I talk about Scrunch. Scrunch was a dog I found on the street. Man, did I love that dog. In fact, I buried him in a little pet cemetery so I could, visit him. I was never a cat person. And then I got married, and my wife loves cats, and she feeds cats. So now we basically have more cats in our backyard than most, like cat hospital and, pet solution farms. And we got 2 cats that she let in the house. One was called Gilligan. And we have a cat now. I think you saw me. She was holding it on the broadcast, named Lewis.
Yes.
This cat thinks he's a dog, follows you around. His behavior is more dog-like than cat-like. I can tell you this. I do not like people that are unkind to old people, kids, or animals, because there's so much empathetic support you can get and give with older folks, little kids, and animals. What's more comforting than an animal? You're having a rotten day. They don't criticize you. They don't contradict you. They just want you to rub behind their ears, which, by the way, Charity, is what I would do with Russell when he gets a little cranky too. Scratch his little belly, make his leg twitch. You didn't get that from your other guests, Russell.
No.
Well, and as far as personality types go, how are some people dogs and how are some people cats?
Well, it's a good question.
That's Charity.
Yeah. Cats. Well, cats, the interesting thing is, and my cat seems to break the stereotype. When we think of cats, we think of somebody that's a little more independent, standoffish. And when we think of a dog, we think of somebody that's a little more attentive and friendly, just in the sense that if you open your door, your dog attacks you, his tail's wagging, it's like he hasn't seen you in 11 years. You walk up to your cat, he's like, are you bothering me for any reason? So I think some people, guys like me and Russell, are dogs. We'll run up to you, our tails wagging, come in excited. And some people are cat-like in the sense that they're a little more laid back and a little bit out of their shell. Now, they both can be effective salespeople. They're both incredible pets. There's a quote from Freud that says, Jung, excuse me, that when 2 personalities collide, they chemically change each other anytime you're in a reaction. So I think a lot of it is not only the personality of the pet, but of the owner. Because haven't we all seen people that the owner and the pet start to look alike?
That is actually true. I don't even know how in the hell that.
It reminds me of the 101 Dalmatians movie from I don't know, the 60s or 50s, whenever. And it starts with the people walking their dogs, and the people walking their dogs look exactly like their dogs.
Yep.
That really is true. Okay, wow, that was a great response. And Sherry, you had one more question. Then we're gonna.
Well, we're almost out of time.
we're
So
there,
my
okay.
my last question
Don't
to you.
say almost out of time to a guy that concedes we're all dying every day.
Got to use it wisely, right?
Right. There you go.
Well, you're a funny guy. Do you want to tell us a joke or anything else before we head out?
Yeah. What would you like to say or talk about before we go? You got a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Well, I think what's interesting is if I used this analogy the other day, and I'll throw it out real quick and back it up. I used the classic timeless analogy that they sent 2 shoe salesmen to the most remote part of Africa. And one telegram back and said, "Why the hell would you send me here? Nobody wears shoes." And the other guy says, "I'm so glad you sent me here. Everybody needs shoes." It's all your perspective. If you can find yourself the right people to interact with and surround with, if you can find a goal that not only makes you feel better, but makes people around you feel better, the reward is so overwhelming, I can't even begin to tell you. I've had my band together forever. I've been with my drummer. It sounds crazy, Russ, for 40 years. I don't think we've ever had a harsh word or a disagreement. And I go into that, we practice in my basement of my house, or when we play live, or we go in the studio. It could be World War III, and as soon as I start playing my guitar and singing, it all goes away. So I found things to pursue that make me happy. The reason that, and listen, people can debate me all they want. I don't think there's a better trainer on earth. I just did the podcast with Bob Hollinshead when he said, "You're the Tony Robbins of the car business." Paul Brobson saw me train for 3.5 hours. Nobody turned away.
I remember.
It's because I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get in front of people. I don't get up in the morning and go, "Oh, damn, I got to do another class." So it's so scary that again, another bad analogy, but it works. If the water stays out of the boat, it's floating. If the water gets in the boat, it goes under. That's your attitude. When you let negativity creep in on you, you're done. When you're positive and upbeat, not only do you feel better, but you make the people around you all feel better.
Larry.
And the only reason I didn't tell a joke is both you and he would be banned. The FCC would block you up. I don't think I've told a clean joke in about 11 years.
No, but they come. Charity, thank you so much. Larry, listen, CEO, owner, president, Career Changers USA, author, talent extraordinaire, extremely talented musician. Like him, love him, share him. The episodes, tune in. There's a lot of great tidbits in here, but you're going to have to watch it and listen to it in order to understand, or you're going to miss something. And if not, then show up on Wednesday night at Career Changers, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. I mean, not Career Changers, but Lethal Sales.
Hey, Russell, your microphone went dead. Did you repeat all those compliments?
No, it did not go dead, but you almost caught me. No, listen, we are humbled and honored to have you on here.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And Charity, thank you for always making this happen. I'm telling you, we wouldn't be here without her. And Patrick and what he does on the side. That's what makes all this go, right?
Patrick and Charity, thank you so much. Russell, as always, it's just a pleasure talking to you, my buddy. I treasure our relationship.
Thank you. And that is another successful episode of WTF. And that is What the FixedOPS to all of you. See you soon.